Hey, let's welcome in our guests this morning, the president of the Berkeley County Board of Education, Pat Murphy. Mr. Murphy, good to see you.
Glad to be here.
Vice president of the Berkeley County Board of Education, Jackee Long. Jackee.
It's a pleasure as always.
Oh, it's ours.
Yes, as always.
Thank you for coming in. And we have a special guest to announce as well. He is the soon-to-be new superintendent of schools in Berkeley County, Dr. Ryan Saxe. Dr. Saxe, good morning. Thank you for joining us via telephone.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here. I must say, though, I was a little concerned when the show just started because I thought we're already talking about killing people off.
You're safe so far, Doctor.
You have a couple of weeks of grace.
That's good.
Yeah, you know, with these authors, they got to have action.
Got to have material as well. So he looks under every rock for material. So be careful, Doctor.
Careful what you say. Dr.
That's right.
Saxe, when is your last day of employment in Cabell County?
Well, my last day is this coming Friday, and then my wife and our two boys will be making the trip up to Berkeley County, where I'll start working next Monday, actually.
Well, congratulations on the new job, and welcome to Berkeley County, sir.
Thank you. I'm very excited for the move and the opportunity to work with just some amazing people in Berkeley County. Definitely looking forward to it.
Have you checked out the prices of houses in the area yet?
Unfortunately, yes. It's a booming market.
Yeah. So tell us why you were interested in this job.
Well, I think that, one of the things that, Berkeley County has is it has a reputation for excellence in the state of West Virginia. And I think that seeing that there's an opportunity to go up and lead a large school district, working with this board, working with a fantastic group of educators and service personnel, and really some amazing families that want the best for their children is something that really drives me. And I think this is just a unique opportunity for my family and I. That's really what the drive was.
We've talked with Melissa Power and Damon Wright from the Board of Education. First chance to talk with Pat and Jackee about this unanimous 5-0 vote to approve Dr. Saxe as the new superintendent. Pat, let me start with you. What were the qualities you saw that made you decide to vote for Dr. Saxe?
Well, first and foremost, I was impressed by how he turned Cabell around from a ranking of 23rd up to 8th academically. That was my driving force. That's our primary objective in education, and that's why I picked him. I also I was impressed by his business contacts, his working with Marshall University, with the Chamber of Commerce, his involvement there. He's an innovative thinker. They're converting a Sears building into a career technical oriented facility. He had a letter from the president of the West Virginia Manufacturers Association. He had an impressive name in sports. Help me out, Dr. Saxe.
You're talking about
Kathy
you're talking about the
D'Antoni.
D'Antonis.
Yes.
Kathy was at the Department of Ed.
Mm-hmm. And he's got an Italian last name, which I approve of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he'll do well with
Yeah. Jackee?
Well, Pat took most of my comments.
Come on, Pat. He's just
That's why you
getting
should have started
even,
with me.
Jackee. He's just
Yeah.
getting even.
Well, his abilities to work with the CSI schools, they had 3 CSI schools in Cabell County, which were those comprehensive support and improvement schools that the state puts schools on when academics or discipline or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 3 of those schools and brought them off of that designation with much success, and they have continued off of that designation. And his abilities to work with a school board, school building authority, before our bond of the $125 million, Cabell had the largest bond of $85 million. So he has great success, and they know him well at the school building authority. And most importantly, what he did to bring his students up, academic achievement up from 23rd to 8th in the state. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I saw that stood out with me, and that's what we're looking for. So
Thank you. Let's get our co-hosts involved here. Bill?
Good morning, Dr. Saxe. Bill Stubblefield. Over what period of time did it take you to turn around Cabell County schools?
Well, I've been here for 7 years, and what I'll also say is that when it comes to improving outcomes for students, whether it be student achievement, graduation rate, providing opportunities for industry and programming to work together, so that you have a marketable workforce that the business community can trust and rely on in taking these important jobs. It's a process. And so when we think about school improvement, it's a 3 to 4 year process before you begin to see, the fruits of the labor. So I've been superintendent here for 7 years. And what I'll also say is that I have surrounded myself with like-minded people who work together, that have the experience, but they're the ones who we collaborate together to institute this change. It's not just the superintendent. Now, I think it's important that accountability and expectation and vision be the driving force, but it's also about making sure that you're getting the team all going in the same direction. And I tell the board that my mantra for the last 7 years has been, from the boardroom to the classroom, we're going to focus on making decisions that best impact students. And the same thing really applies to school improvement. While there's a process that you use to make sure that you're improving learning opportunities, learning experiences, and academic outcomes for your students, it takes everybody working in concert and working together in complete alignment to make that happen.
My question was actually based upon, you said it took 4 to 7 years turning around. You have a 3-year contract. Are you comfortable that will be sufficient for you to at least start seeing some changes?
Well, I think that, everything's in moderation. And so, like I said, when we think about school improvement, you're going to start implementing, professional development. You're going to have support mechanisms in place to support what's going on in the classroom. And through those processes, you're going to involve stakeholders. You're going to involve families. You're going to involve the board. And I think that building those relationships and the trust that the ship is headed in the right direction is extremely important. And that's what we're going to have to do over the next 3 years while I'm superintendent, is to make sure that we're building that trust, that we're getting the district in complete alignment, that there is confidence from the community, confidence from the board that we're headed in the right direction. And I do think that we're going to start yielding some quick and long-term wins. I think that's going to be essential. And so I feel confident in whether it be the contract or the direction that Berkeley County will be going in, will be well received by all.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Good morning, Dr. Saxe. This is John Gilstrap. 23 to 8. That's a big step. A similar step would take us to number 1, right? Is that so? I
would certainly hope so. And
my question
is
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
How readily replicable is what you did in Cabell County to bring it here? Can whatever you did there, do you have every expectation that is in fact replicable here?
I think that Berkeley County has similar, if not more, resources to be able to move in that direction. It's about people. And that's really what it's about. It's about people, and it's about their mindset of identifying that there needs to be a change in direction or in thinking or in process or in practice. And so it's getting all of our stakeholders, teachers, service personnel, administrators, families, the board, all thinking in the same manner that this is our calling. This is our moral imperative that we have to be able to accomplish. I think once we're able to establish that, then I think that we absolutely have the resources to make it happen. Because the process by which you focus on continuous improvement or improvement, all of those ingredients are in Berkeley County, and I cannot wait to work with our fantastic leadership and within our schools, within our classrooms. The potential is absolutely there, and it's about finding how we can best support the work that they need to do, and how we can also make sure we engage with our families of our students to make sure that we're also meeting their needs as well as we continue to address any pitfalls or barriers to moving that needle up to being the #1 school district in the state of West Virginia.
Now, the asterisk that exists here in Berkeley County that may or may not, I'm not familiar with Cabell County, to be honest with you. The asterisk that exists here is the pull of neighboring states that can pay a lot more money. And we hear all the time that Berkeley County just does not have the funds to keep teachers here because they go elsewhere. How do you overcome that?
Well, that is a great point. I think that first and foremost, we have to be able to continue to focus on compensation. That's just part of it. And I know that it has been discussed many times over is locality pay. That is something that I will continue to advocate for, is locality pay for our educators and for our service personnel in Berkeley. But I think also when you look at the research around what attracts newer individuals, newer folks into the workforce, and what they're looking for in a career, money is not always the leading driver. Now, it can be a huge influence of it, but part of it is the internal rewards that they have, the feeling of that they're being supported, that there is upward mobility, that there is that they're appreciated and valued. And I think that we really have to make sure that we're focusing on the culture of our school system, one that everyone feels valued, that everyone feels like what they're contributing is benefiting the group as a whole, and that they see that motivation, that value. I think that that's also extremely important. And so it's not just one thing that will do it. I think it's a multitude of things that we have to continue to work toward to ensure that we're not only recruiting the best, but we're retaining the very best within Berkeley County schools.
Dr. Ryan Saxe is our guest here. He was voted in unanimously, 5-0, by the Berkeley County Board of Education as the next superintendent of schools. He will take over that job as soon as he concludes his current position in Cabell County. So next Monday, I do believe the date is his starting date here as we begin a new month in the month of July and such. Can you address the levy situation in Cabell County, Dr. Saxe, your involvement in that? And you probably have heard by now that is a vocal point of concern to some here in Berkeley County who heard the news that you're coming here to take over this position.
Yeah, certainly. So, Cabell County has had a long history of excess levy passage. One of the things that Cabell still had in place from probably back in the 1970s was there were these legislative acts that required a specific set-aside amount of funding for our parks and libraries. And let me just preface by saying our park system here in Cabell County, actually it's in Cabell and Wayne County, but as well as our library system is first class. And my family and I, we enjoy the benefits of both the parks and the libraries here in Cabell County. It's a fabric of the community, and the school system has always been a proud partner with them. But we have declining enrollment in Cabell County. We're different in that respect from Berkeley. We're sort of in alignment with what the rest of the state is going through. And when we had approached our park and library systems, because we had to shave our budget, we had basically, made a request that could we reach a compromise and reducing some of the amount of funding, because at the time, we, out of our school district's budget from our excess levy, we were giving somewhere in the neighborhood of close to $2.3 million a year to the park and library system. And that was met with some resistance. And, of course, no decision is made in a vacuum. It's not just, Ryan Saxe. It's not just one member of the board. But we had many different conversations. We had workshops on where we were shaving our budget. We shaved our budget close to $10 million, actually. And so we were sort of requesting that there be a similar ask there. And, understandably, they had these legislative acts that they felt that they had to hold to. And so when we did reduce the funding, there was a lawsuit. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said Cabell County Schools is right. You don't have to give the parks or libraries anything. And while that was a legal hurdle that we had to overcome in providing that this was not required for us to do, I still wanted to be able to do something significant. And so, in fact, our excess levy had $1.5 million to the library system and $200,000 to our local park system. And that was still not to the levels that they had hoped for. And so there was an outside group, not necessarily within the park and library boards themselves, that was very frustrated over the fact that they wanted more money to go to the parks and libraries respectively. And the voters spoke. The voters said, you know what, we agree. We feel like we should be funding the park and libraries more than $1.5 million per year. And so what we have been doing since then is we've been working with the park and libraries to reach a new agreement as to what the levy call could entail, so that it can be passed in November. But, the whole reason that those things and those decisions were being made over funding was not because of the value of what parks and libraries bring, because they're tremendous. It was about protecting our employees and making sure that we could retain as many employees to provide services to our students as possible. And many of those positions are things like academic interventionists in the classrooms, counselors in every single school, because for the longest time, Cabell did not have those. It was school safety officers in our schools also. And so when you have to take away another $500,000 or $600,000 to fund outside organizations, that's very challenging in making a decision. And so again, it was always, from the point of view of trying to do what was best for our students within the Cabell County public school system. It was never to hurt our partner organizations, because we felt like we were funding them significantly. But the voters agreed that we should compensate them more, and that's why we're revising the excess levy to try to make that happen.
Bill?
Yeah, point of reference, Jackee or Pat one, how much do we in Berkeley County pay our parks and our library? These are two separate boards in Berkeley County.
Well, we could both answer, but
yeah,
Pat
okay.
will.
Yeah, I presently, under the existing levy, we give our library $112,500 and our Parks and Rec $112,500.
So significantly below the $1.2 million that was in Cabell County.
But when the new levy kicks in, there will be an increase. I think the library was $40,000 and the Parks and Rec was 25 or 20. So nowhere near.
Yeah. So it's not an issue in Berkeley County. It has not been an issue in Berkeley County.
No, it hasn't been.
John, Dr. Saxe.
And let me just say, I look forward to working with our partner organizations of the parks and libraries up in Berkeley County. They are, fabrics of the community. The library and the park systems, they provide services to families that have, really, cradle to pre-K, and then of course after high school. Those types of, different types of services that they can provide from a library standpoint, but the recreational aspect of bringing families together and bonding and exercising and those types of things. And so I think being able to take a look at how can we continue to provide those opportunities for our families and community members within the school district and outside the school district that live in Berkeley are investments and wise investments. And so I am glad to see that Berkeley County continues to do that. But you're right, it's different than the nearly 1.5 that we had in our levy call in May, and the probably close to the 2.3, 2.4 million that we're probably going to settle on here in the next week or two for the new November levy call.
We have 2 minutes left. John, did you have another question?
Yeah, I want to circle back to your strategies here. You've mentioned the word accountability a couple of times in terms of your strategy for the schools. To what metrics do you want to hold whom accountable?
Well, I think that, like it or not, I don't think that the best measure for a student in learning is a state standardized test. But it is how we are measured in the state of West Virginia. And so I think that we have to be able to see how are we positively impacting learning in the classroom for our students as measured on the State Summit of Assessment, which is the GSA. But there are other factors that I think we have to also look at. There's career and technical education certification completer rates. There's graduation rate. There's within the school building, there's anecdotal or formative feedback that we can look at through how are we, is our school district leadership and our school leadership supporting the work in our classrooms through resources, through mentoring, through modeling high-quality instructional practices. Evaluations, our evaluations being done with fidelity where we're giving, a constructive feedback on practice, both for principals and district leadership, but also classroom teachers or service personnel. We want everybody to have the resources they need to be the most successful they can in their positions. And a lot of times the way we find that out is we ask them, what can we do to provide you more support so you can be the best, the most effective in your role? That's where true accountability comes in, is that making sure when people are asking for help, that the help is provided, they're not having to wait and be delayed, but also that the expectations of how instruction should look in the classroom, how we should communicate with our families, all of those things need to be well articulated and then monitored.
Dr. Saxe, thank you so much for your time this morning. Greatly appreciated.
It was certainly an honor, and I look forward to perhaps coming back on soon.
That would be our pleasure. Jackee and Pat, thank you for setting that up.
Thank you.